everyone. It's MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. The great Tom Petty bumping us into this segment. We are in downtown Jackson at two Mississippi museums for Empower Mississippi's third annual Unleash Mississippi Policy Summit. We welcome to the program now Robert Enlow, President and CEO of EdChoice. Robert, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for sharing Tom Petty with me to start today.
There you go. That's Rhino back at headquarters. He takes care of us, man. We are so excited to have you here, and very excited, of course, about the big Unleash Mississippi event, the third annual. I expect this one to be bigger than the prior two. We're getting a lot of attention. This organization, I've been with it, as you're probably aware, since its inception. I have been honored and pleased to serve as the board chairman, and we have come from having to educate people about who we are and what we stand for to everybody knows who we are now. So that's what we want, and I think we're on the right side of policy. Education choice, education freedom is top of that list, and honestly, as you know, it was the catalyst for formation of this organization, something you have a lot of passion about, you've been working on a long time. You got to be pleased with the interest in education choice and the momentum in this country.
The momentum is just going through the roof right now, and we're so proud to be here and so proud to have been partnering with Empower Mississippi, frankly, since your founding.
Yeah,
right?
That's
so
right.
We were one of your first supporters.
Yes.
And are so happy to have been doing that. You know, the choice movement has grown so much in the last decade. I don't know if you know this. This year there were 111 bills in 40 states this year that were introduced for vouchers, education savings accounts, and tax credits. 79% of them were for education savings accounts. We now have 9 states, and soon to be 10, that have every child eligible to get choice. Universal choice. That's nearly universal. That's nearly 1 in 5 students now in America have access to universal choice.
Because we have, as you are aware, we have some degree of school choice with charter schools, the education scholarship accounts for dyslexia and special needs, but we haven't quite crossed the bridge into universal school choice, such as what has been implemented in Arkansas, in Iowa, Arizona, Florida. I'm sure there are a few more. We understand Alabama is close to getting this done as well.
Alabama's working on West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Utah, right? So there are these states out there that are saying we believe all dollars should follow all kids to whatever learning opportunity they want to go to. And I think why Empower Mississippi is doing such a great job is because your policy is on the side of parents. And that's what universal choice is about.
Okay. And Pennsylvania, we got crazy close there in a somewhat blue state, right?
Yeah, no, we had a Democratic governor saying he wants to support the Lifeline scholarship account. So there is progress all over New Hampshire. We think maybe even Texas might actually get something in a special session. So the movement is growing leaps and bounds in the last 3 years. And look, it was always there, but the pandemic supercharged it, is what I say.
No doubt.
The pandemic just supercharged it.
Well, and to that point, Robert, could you ever imagine that there would be so much attention placed on school board meetings and proceedings? That's not something you think about beyond your sort of local world there, but good grief, since the pandemic, when parents got wind of what's actually going on in their classrooms that they didn't think was appropriate in many cases, or really wasn't the education they expected their children to be given, they started speaking up and attending school board meetings. I think we could argue that Governor Glenn Youngkin got elected in the blue state of Virginia expressly because of that issue.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And look, whether you're a parent saying, hey, I don't like what the school is teaching about this issue, or I don't like about that issue, it doesn't matter. The parents during the pandemic got a hook under the hood and said, what are they teaching my kids and how are they doing it? And they said, enough of this, and they started to take charge. And that's what's so good about what's going on right now. And I don't see why Mississippi doesn't join the ranks next year.
Well, we hope to, and I have been talking about it on the program today, that I think a lot of the obstacle in Mississippi stems from the lack of understanding and just misunderstanding, misconceptions. And there's this perception by opponents of school choice that you're just trying to get rid of the public schools. You're trying to hurt the public schools. You're trying to take money away from the public schools. It's not the truth.
No, it's not the truth at all. And, you know, I've been doing this work now for 27 years, and I have had the same arguments thrown at me for 27 years, and not a single one of them have proven true over time. Oh, it's going to take money from public schools. Actually, it saves them money based on all of our data. The data we have in Mississippi shows that even these small, tiny programs have saved the state upwards of $11 million.
Wow.
Right? So, and there's only 1,000 kids in these programs. So the reality is the data always shows that school choice works and doesn't harm traditional public schools. But then philosophically, there's a big point to make here, I think. Do you know who the largest drainer of other public school funds are? Other public schools when people move.
I believe that, yeah.
Right? When you move from one district to another, your funds follow you. It's called a per pupil funding unit. So all we're wanting is that just to go to any school type.
Makes total sense. So how do we address the issue that we have here, your thoughts on this in Mississippi, where we often have, and I know it's not unique to Mississippi, you've got a really high-performing district that's adjacent to a very low-performing district, and the concern that the parents have in the high-performing district is that with universal school choice, we just have this exodus from the poor-performing and an influx into the high-performing, and that would overrun it.
Yeah, so evidence shows that that doesn't happen, first of all. But second of all, we would want kids to be able to access higher quality education.
Sure.
Are we saying that we think they should stay in the low-quality schools? No.
Yeah.
My answer is we should provide as many options as we can for those families. One of the interesting things in my home state of Indiana is we allow universal public school choice. And because we fund kids at different rates in different districts, so the urban kids get a lot more money than the suburban kids or the rural kids.
Right.
And so the largest choice program in Indiana is the public-to-public transfer program of kids in urban areas being sought after by kids in rural areas, by school districts in rural and suburban areas. And they come into the busing, like in Muncie, Indiana, there's like 7 school districts that drive in the middle of that city every day and pick up kids because they want to educate them and they get more resources for them.
And the reality is, the legislature can structure this any way they want.
Correct.
I mean, there's not like a one-size-fits-all structure, but we have several other states that have sort of already shown us what works, even what doesn't work, and to stay away from. So we have templates.
Yeah, we do. And one of the things I would say about the template conversation is we have learned, and we know it doesn't work if you make a bill based on failing schools. Right? You have to make a bill. What works is when you make a bill based on what families want.
Right.
Right? And the bills that work the best are the bills that are the broadest, allow the most families choice of the widest amount of options.
Right.
Those are the ones that work the best.
Yeah. And so in Mississippi, we're sort of knocking on the door. I feel like the attitude in our state has changed towards this, but more importantly, we're seeing the border states that are acting on this. And if something happened in Texas, of course that would be huge. But Florida, which I think is a state that's been under a lot of focus, for one, because they've enjoyed such a huge influx of people into their state, exiting states where policies aren't very good and taxes are crazy, and they have a governor who's running for president. It's getting them a lot of attention as well.
There's no doubt about that. Look, if you don't watch it here in Mississippi, you might be surrounded by school choice states,
and that's
right?
Exactly right.
So Tennessee's doing it. You know, Louisiana's already got it, and it's going to grow it big next year. That's another state that we think is going to go up big next year. And Texas does it, and you got Florida doing it. It's going to be all around you.
One of the early adopters and success stories for charter schools, the state of Louisiana,
Absolutely.
New Orleans specifically.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. And what they've found is that families want choices and options, and they don't care. Look, I don't think families really care whether, when you ask them, is it a charter school you're going to or a private school or a public school, a lot of times they don't know and they don't care. They say, this is a school that's working for my kid.
Yeah. And then there's some people that I've heard in our legislature that have this concern about public money that would be diverted effectively with choice to private institutions, private schools.
I mean, like we do with Medicare,
Right,
Medicaid,
right.
and food stamps and everything else that we do in this country.
And everything else that government buys from
Everything else the government
private
buys,
companies.
except we just don't allow them to choose the schools that they want to. And what the real irony of that is we give public money for parents to send their kids to preschools that are religious and non-religious. We give public money to kids who are in college to go to religious and non-religious
That's true.
schools. Somehow there's this change when they become kindergarten kindergartner and they exit high school, they're two different people, clearly, right? So it's a real challenge. The logic of the arguments have just never been there. And look, we believe, and the data shows, that if you allow universal choice and you allow parents freedom to choose, it's actually going to make our democracy stronger. There's a disconnect that people have. Public schooling is not the same thing as public education. We believe in a strong public education system. That is just not a government-run school system only.
That's a great point. Right? There's a distinction between good public education and public schools.
That's correct. And
that's
a democracy runs on people making truly self-enlightened choices that are the best interest for their kids. And the data shows it makes them better students and it makes them better kids, and they vote more.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And before you go, I'll just make this point. I believe every candidate for president as a Republican supports school choice.
100%.
I think that's true. I don't think we've ever seen that before.
I don't think we've ever seen that. And then I just support it. They support it full-throated.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Yep. Robert, good talking to you, sir. Appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you for being here today and supporting Empower Mississippi through all these years. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thanks,
Robert Enlow, President, CEO of EdChoice. Final segment on Middays is coming up next from two museums for Empower Mississippi's Unleash Mississippi. Stay with us.